records of a different sort were set in New York. One was for participation. Over 17,000 began, and more than 15,000 finished. Greta Weitz won her 7th tour of the 5 boroughs, and that's also a record. Moving westward to our 49th state, it was a battle against the elements for both humans and dogs. The Iditarod, the last great race on Earth. There were wipeouts and also whiteouts, as mushers fought their way across over 1,000 miles of Arctic desolation. With hours to go in the race, Libby Riddles defied a fierce blizzard and became the first woman ever to win. After 18 days, there's no place like Nome. Figure skating. It's not the type of endurance event you've just encountered. The endurance here is of a far more subtle variation. It's a seemingly endless search for athletic perfection. Continuing across the Pacific, we visit Tokyo, Japan, the land of the rising sun, where 2 young stars dominated the women's figure skating competition. The battle for the world championship came down to the final programs. Katharina Witt from East Germany gave a dazzling performance.
Showing you her musical ability now. It's funny, today during practice she was improvising to everybody else's music. That's how loose she's been here. Triple toe loop, another beautiful triple toe loop.
Then it was up to America's newest sweetheart, Tiffany Chin. Tiffany had to skate a better final program to beat Witt for the gold. And as she attempted to carry the legacy left by Dorothy Hamill, Rosalind Sumners, and Elaine Zayak, well, the weight was just too much.
Double axel. Oh, and she flips. She had control. It looked like her foot just went right out from under her. That could cost her the world championship.
It did. And once again, the queen of the ice remains Katharina Witt. And you can expect to see a rematch between Katharina Witt and Tiffany Chin in next year's World Figure Skating Championships. Still ahead, John Madden unveils his interesting, if not outrageous, plays of the year and will deliver his annual State of the NFL address.
Hamburger places serve billions of burgers. And oh yes, they also serve chicken, like chicken nuggets. But it's hard to do chicken right. Part-time. At Kentucky Fried Chicken, our nuggets have our secret blend of 11 herbs and spices, so they taste great. In fact, people who said they never tried Kentucky Nuggets and McDonald's chicken nuggets rated ours higher on taste. So get your nuggets from the chicken experts. Anything else could be a bum steer.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do chicken right.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
I got the kids a Science Fair 201 electronic kit. The 108-page instruction book has projects that are easy, educational, and fun. Spring connectors mean no soldering, and it's battery operated, so it's 100% safe. And it was on sale at Radio Shack for $39.95.
Dad, listen to Santa Susie on the radio.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
The 201 kit on sale for $39.95, only at Radio Shack.
I've got a headache this big, and it's got Excedrin written all over it.
I've got a headache this big, and it's got Excedrin written all over it.
Excedrin, the big headache medicine. More medicine than any regular strength pain reliever. The most medicine you can buy without a prescription. Nothing is stronger.
I had a headache this big, but I took Excedrin, and it's gone.
Excedrin, from Bristol Myers. Excedrin, the headache medicine.
Like every other year, 1985 begins in January. But in football terms, January is when the season ends. January 1985 is the month Bill Walsh remembers best. Playing in their own backyard, Walsh's San Francisco 49ers shut down Dan Marino and the Dolphins to win Super Bowl 19. Then the NFL shuts down. Basketball, hockey, baseball take over. But in September, the regular season is back, and so is the NFL. The 49ers were everybody's preseason favorites to repeat, but they found it going tough in their very first game of the season, as Bud Grant, back from a year off hunting and fishing, upset the defending champions. Joe Montana started off with problems. In the early season, he was one of the many 49ers to find out that winning a championship is one thing, but repeating is a whole lot harder.
It hasn't been a great season for us, there's no question about it. It's been very frustrating. and very upsetting.
Also finding it hard to repeat is last year's rushing leader, Eric Dickerson, a holdout for 2 games. And while Dickerson was out of uniform, Atlanta's Gerald Riggs was rushing to the top of the NFC, even though the Falcons were losing. Another young guy who's become a star this season is Ken O'Brien of the New York Jets. Until this year, he was best known as a quarterback the Jets drafted ahead of Dan Marino. But this season, some familiar faces have also played well. Dallas's Tony Hill was among the leading receivers. And Walter Payton, already the NFL's all-time leading runner, again showed why he's headed for the Hall of Fame. Don Shula led the Dolphins to another good season in the AFC East. Meanwhile, out west, the Raiders in Denver went into overtime twice, and both times Chris Barr kicked the Raiders to victory.
Snap, ball is down, Barr's kick is on the way, and the Raiders win. For the second time in 2 weeks, the Raiders have beaten the Broncos in overtime, and they take over in the AFC West.
Over in the NFC West, the Rams sprinted to a 7-0 start and made the playoffs thanks to their special teams. Olympian Ron Brown tied an NFL record by returning 2 kickoffs for touchdowns against Green Bay.
First down and 10. It's batted out and intercepted. Jim Jeffcoat will score.
And in the East, Dallas defeated the Giants last Sunday and will return to the playoffs after last year's unusual absence. But the most dominant team in football this year comes out of the NFC Central, the Chicago Bears. The new monsters of the Midway ripped off a dozen straight wins with a talented but unlikely cast of characters that made them this year's America's team. There was a nonconformist quarterback who didn't mind butting a few heads or catching touchdown passes.
They give to Peyton. Peyton wants to throw it again. Nobody open. Now Peyton back to McMahon. Touchdown!
There was a swarming defense, the league's best, that went from stopping points to scoring them. It's a team assembled under a coach who's as tough as his town. And capping off this improbable season, the Bears unleashed an amazing and unstoppable new weapon. He's William Perry, the refrigerator, the man who has become this year's folk hero in the NFL.
All right, here's Jim McMahon barking out the signals. Perry in motion to the near side. McMahon fakes the hand. Fires the right side. Oh, there you go!
And take it from me. In an era where Slim is in, it's refreshing to see a new star who can whet not only the fans' appetite, but also his own. But the refrigerator was just one of the fun things that happened in sports in 1985. Actually, there were hundreds of them. Fun, funny, and just plain weird. I get all these tapes, over 1,000 of them. Now, you can't look at all these things. So what I did is I put them all on one cassette. You know, sometimes there's just some things that you have to see again. You have to remember. And this is 1985. Every event starts with a national anthem, so we will too.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so brightly we see? A-la-la-dee-um. Oh, I forgot the words.
Now, I know a thing or two about breaking through these sheets. You're always worried about getting hit from the blind side. And if you like that collision, you'll love these. And who said baseball isn't a contact sport? Talk about having your back up against the wall. Let's take a look at some pretty speedy recoveries. SMU's Kirby Morrison gets hit, but Jeff Jacobs gets an early Christmas present. Speaking of gifts, here's how two fell. Touchdown Rams? Wrong. Never give a quarterback a second chance. The recovery of the year was made by Randy Momola. He's off the bike. He's on the bike. Ride 'em, cowboy. And talk about concentration. Watch Ken Griffey reel in a sure home run. And here's how Mark Duper beat the Jets with a one-hander. That's why they call him Super. Now let's look at some of the best tosses. Chuck Carter of the Mariners tosses a great tantrum. And Marshall's Bruce Morris threw up the prayer of the year. Watch his pickoff at first. Of course, Bobby Knight did some nifty interior decorating. And that inspired the new sport of the year in Buffalo, the Bobby Knight chair throwing contest. Bill Parcells' team tossed the bucket at their coach when he got a little overheated. This was my favorite field of the year. This was the way they intended football to be played. And this is my play of the year. It's kind of like a season's highlight film in one play. Watch as South Carolina's Mike Holt finally gets his touchdown. And boy, does he ever do it the hard way. Now, most people who go to a bullfight root for the guy with a cape. I always kind of like the underdog. I always rooted for the bull myself. So this is my bullfight of the year. So where's the bull? He was laughing so hard at these guys, he fell right out of the picture.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
In 1985, Alain Prost won the Formula One driving title. Al Unser Sr. captured the IndyCar crown. And Darrell Waltrip was stock car champion. But the biggest winner of all was Bill Elliott, whose 11 victories and $2 million in prize money set NASCAR records. Coming up, the team of the year.